welcome to I think we're at 28, 27 or 28, episode 27, 28 of the commongear.com podcast, where we talk each week about notable auction sales. And something we've noticed since doing these is Doug DeMuro has often talked about the fact that his videos of like the supercars get far more traction than interesting this specific vehicle. And it's really interesting because last week we had this really cool E28 M5 among others, and the views dropped off significantly over the previous edition where we were talking about more modern supercars. So this week we're kind of walking between the middle, right, where we're going to talk about supercars a little bit older, but three notable sales of exotic sports cars that I think are interesting because relative to what they are, they seem like each one is a little bit interesting in terms of sale price, because there's one that I would have expected to go for more. There's one that went for way cheap, and there's one that went for bigger money than I would have expected, given what some of these have sold for recently. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen and we'll jump right in. So guys, you guys can see these.
Yes, we can.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. So first out of the gate is this 82 Lamborghini Countach LP400 that I personally love. Now, I'm not a big Countach guy. I didn't really grow up idolizing this car like so many other people our age did, when they were, 9-10 years old. But I can always appreciate it for what it is, which is just, 80s excess, off the wall, pain in the ass to own, drive, etc. But kind of one of those things that if you have the means, it's like a car guy, checkbox car. You got to have one of these at some point. And I actually really liked this one. I liked it because it was a Euro spec car. It kind of walked the middle. Like it wasn't over the top like the 25th anniversary that had a ton of additional like strakes and flares and all this other stuff. So it had like the cleaner Euro spec LP400 body, which, it's too bad it had the rear wing. I think if it were mine, I'd get rid of it. But really, I want to talk about the price for this car because it sold for $480,000, which seems like a lot, but that's really not a lot for a Countach. The Countach is one of those cars that over the past few years, we kind of already knew it was a blue chip collectible, but it's really become pretty standard that you're going to pay $600,000 or more to get into one. And this car to me was so interesting because it's a little bit ratty. It's modified. It's got like an aftermarket exhaust on it, which you just don't often see. So it's kind of like this dirty Euro car. It's got an exhaust system on it, true mileage unknown. But it's kind of like a driver quality Countach, and I thought this was so cool because it just looks like a ton of fun to own. Like I wouldn't, it even says right here, exterior chips, scratches, paint imperfections. The turn signal covers are yellowing. The center caps are faded. The tires are old. It's got a bunch of wear and tear inside. It's the seller's just like, oh yeah, it's got some oil leaks. Like it's like you're selling a Buick, and instead it's a Lamborghini Countach. So I just found this car oddly appealing because it just feels like one you could actually kind of just own and not really have to worry about it being kept in a carcoon or something like that. It's just sort of the driver. So to me, I suspect some people would say, well, it's still too much money because it wasn't perfect, but I kind of love it because it isn't, and it seemed like one that you could actually use every day. So that's me. I think it's fair money, and it's only going to go up from here. So just curious what you guys think of this one.
I'm going to completely disagree with you, Jeff, on this one. I'm just trying to remember I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, but I think you talked about like basically for the money having a driver quality car. I mean, this went for, what was it? It went for
480.
It went for $480,000, Jeff. This I want something better than like a halfway decent driver quality car for $480K, which it sounds a bit ridiculous. I mean, it's worn, it's modded. That exhaust is heinous looking. I mean, there's a photo, if you can pull it up, of that exhaust. It's ridiculous. It's like,
I love it.
I love it. It's like Honda Civic. It's like the Honda Civic coffee can of like Lamborghini Countach exhausts. I mean, this was the head scratch. This is a real head scratcher for me because if you looked at what else things had sold for previously, Bring a Trailer had a couple 82 Lambos with the LP 400Ss, and the highest that one of them went for was 452. And that was, granted, it was 2 years ago, but at the same time, I mean, having that much of a difference for a kind of a really, I don't want to use the term ratty, Jeff, but like kind of a well-worn Countach that's got some flaws. I mean, if you're paying this much, if you're paying this premium, I want something a little bit better. So I'm going to disagree with you.
I don't think there is a premium though. I don't think there is a premium. I think that's the beauty of this car. This is actually short money for.
But it's not. I mean, I don't think it is short money.
I don't think it is either, dude. I'm seeing right now. I thought this was $1 million car in good condition, but I don't think it is. Is this one like special? It's not like a 50th anniversary.
No, it's not. It's a Euro model, and I mean, I'm trying to put my gray market hat on, but I don't know if
guys, this is crazy. I'm on Bring a Trailer right now. You can get one that's very mint looking for 500,000 to 700,000. You can get yourself a nice one. And the one thing I will have to say I disagree with, is it's like driver quality car. I get it, but from what I've heard, and I don't know if this is true. Also, side note, I did have the chance to try to sit in one of these about 5-6 years ago. And even if you handed me the keys, I could not actually drive this vehicle. I couldn't fit, couldn't get my head in, couldn't get my knee under the steering wheel, so I couldn't even drive one. But
that's always been kind of one of the things with these cars, Lars, is that they're not the coolest things to drive.
People say they're not great to drive. Like, would you really want to put miles on this and like, I want to drive this thing every chance I get? I don't think you would. And it's 350 horsepower. It's not like it's a fast car. It probably doesn't even handle that well. I don't think they have power steering. It's a tight cockpit. Tight. And I don't know I don't know how it's sold for that money. You can get a mint one. I mean, dude, look at the engine bay. That's horrible.
It has a Wix. He
didn't even power, and look at the underside. He didn't even power wash it for the listing. It's a $500,000 car. There's a picture of the whole. He didn't even power wash it.
Oof. Where did he drive? Where did he drive this car?
In someone, dude, for $500,000, I wouldn't even want to pay because I would feel disrespected. I'm giving you $500,000 to clean it before. You can tell he didn't clean the car.
Like it has like Ace Hardware. He's a.
This would fit in with the ratty Ferraris we did, a few episodes ago.
Yeah,
that Testarossa we did was ratty, but that was like $120K. Yeah, I don't know if I see the money here. Look on Bring a Trailer. You can get a mint one for 600, 550, 600. Mint.
So, you guys are my friends, and
and also we don't know the mileage. There's so many. There's a lot of. This isn't the only car with question marks we're going to talk about tonight, just to give you a sneak peek. But there's so many question marks to this vehicle, and an Italian early '80s car. I mean, it's a little hairy.
Also, is the worst one. This one is a 3.9 V12. Check this one in the chats, just for reference, and keep in mind that is a 5,000 quattro valve. So this one has the 4-cam 5.2, which is a much more superior engine. The other one has the poopy 3.9. It's not even powerful. Yeah, dude, this one gets an extra 65 horse.
Yeah, it's really funny. We're talking about a vehicle of an air quote supercar with 350 horsepower, and how many kind of normal mundane cars nowadays have 350 horsepower, which is kind of funny.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah. So I think you guys make valid points. I mean, I have a tendency to love the ugly duckling, right? Like, I just think that this was, like, I thought it was just kind of hilarious that this car has been, it's treated like a Ford Escort. It's just the fact that, and it was interesting. Had like some of the comments, I thought, like, this guy saying it's been a staple at Denver area cars and coffee for years. It sounded like the car was just driven a lot, which I guess to me, I've always been really swayed by. Like I love cars that are driven regularly. It's a shame it wasn't detailed better. It definitely should have been. Like the seller deserved a ding for not having taken that time to do that. But I just kind of love the fact that it's a driver quality Countach, which is just those are just words you don't often say in the same sentence. And I think someone looked at it and said, okay, yeah, it's still almost 500,000, right? But if you look at this one that you sent, Lars, let me see where I put that. This one for 550. I mean, you're still saving $50,000-$70,000 over one that. I think if you're trying to get into this world of exotic car ownership, and let's just say you've got the money, but maybe it's an intimidating first purchase, or you have the money and or maybe you're financing. I don't know, but like saving 70 grand for a car that maybe is overly maintained, even if the cosmetics are shoddy. If you had the confidence of knowing it was maintained well, even if the cosmetics aren't great, I think you could say that's worth saving 70 grand. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I guess, but
I get your point, but with the flaws this vehicle has to make it right, is that 70 grand gonna get eaten up?
yeah, dude, we're also talking about a guy dude, we're not talking about some guy buying an M3. This guy's spending $500,000 on an 80s Lambo. It's like saving money. I mean, come on. It's kind of out of the question, isn't it? Isn't that concept kind of like squashed when you do something like this? But you're right, and it almost, from a philosophical standpoint, isn't it nice to know, Jeff, like you're getting a car, and if you're going to drive it, you're going to continue on its legacy, and you're not destroying another one, and it's already been broken in. Like, I personally, if I had that red one that was 70K more, I wouldn't want to drive it the same way I wouldn't care about taking this thing to the grocery store, which would be so cool. You know what I mean? So I get that, but I just feel like 480, 550, tomato.
Yeah. This interesting car for sure. I mean, it'll be fascinating to see if in 5 years that 480 looks like a bargain.
Yeah, right.
In the meantime,
yeah,
let's jump on to our next one. So this one is kind of in the same vein, but probably at the opposite end of the spectrum. So this is a 1990 911 Carrera 4 cab, kind of the least desirable spec of any 911 really out there. But as we know, in this arena, the resto mod impact has really kind of claimed a lot of these 964 chassis cars out of existence, and these were kind of the cheap air cooled 911 that was still modern enough you could drive it every day if you were so inclined. So I kind of love this one because it's like, even though it's a cabriolet, it's like one of the very few we've seen lately that actually sold for kind of what they're worth, which is 40 grand. And it's still a manual. It's got miles that kind of they're high, but to me that says the car has been driven. It's been maintained to the point that it got this far. The comments were that this thing needs, like, I guess, a fair amount of mechanical work. I didn't quite understand where they were getting that from, because it seemed like right here that it had a pretty decent service in 2016, which was amounted to a full engine overhaul in terms of the timing chain being replaced or the tensioner and guide being replaced. But I'm guessing maybe the speculation is that it's been the mechanical attention has been too light since then. Like 2016 to 2023, that's a big gap in a sports car's life. But even so, even with that in mind, I just think, I mean, it's crazy to me, right, that a 964 Cabriolet we're talking about as being a good buy, because back in 98, 99, 2000, you would not have been aching to buy one of these, especially with 150,000 miles on the clock. This was just not a car you would want to own, but it's become so hard to find a decent 964. And I've really come to love the 964 as much as I still consider like the 993 to be kind of my personal attainable dream car. The 964 era 911 is kind of slotting in there as well, because the looks are just classic. I mean, it's just, it's like, it's an old school 911. It's air cooled. It still has all the hallmarks of kind of the car going back to the late 70s. And even with any sort of mechanical concerns aside, this car cosmetically looks pretty great for 150,000 miles. And again, it's a driver. It's a car you can use every day. So I think for the price paid, even with some mechanical overhaul needed, this looks like a really smart buy on the buyer's part. What do you guys think?
I'll go first. So Jeff, I'm going to disagree with you again. So we're two for two so far. So one of the red, I think this car is a candidate for a resto mod job. I think if you read into it, there is some real red flags with this car. So the Carfax report came out as functional damage reported in August 22. The report shows minor to moderate damage reported the front left, and right front in 2013. In that surface, in the seller node, surfaces have been repainted. So you looked at the comments, even the seller was like, well, we're not sure. Like, it doesn't, like, they weren't completely confident in this car. And I'm trying to remember the actual quote that was in here from the seller, but it was totally around the aspect of like, well, things look fine. We're just, okay. The pry damage was, as far as we can tell, very minor. No panels have been replaced as far as we know. They all look original. So that's kind of concerning when the seller hasn't kind of done its thorough homework on that. And a lot of the comments were about that. Like, people like, looks like this has been touched, looks like it's been painted, what's the deal with it? So there's a lot of kind of question marks to this car. So I think, first off, great candidate for a resto mod job right there. As you mentioned, this is kind of the unloved 964. In this kind of configuration, that they're not the prettiest vehicles in the world. If this was a coupe, of course, it would have gone higher. But this isn't too far off what you've seen with other Carrera 4, cabriolets, where they don't really kind of reach the heights that you kind of think that they would go. So I don't know on this one. I mean, this one for $40,000. I mean, if you're someone who really knows Porsches inside out and can really do something with it, maybe you're comfortable with it and feel safe. If not, maybe this is a resto mod potential project somewhere down the road. Just some red flags with some of the previous history on this car and the kind of the unknown questions that the seller couldn't answer. So, Lars, what about you?
I'm going to modify my answer because I do not want to be negative. Because I'm a good person.
Oh, sure.
We want you to be.
No, this
is
the silver lining of this car. This thing is good. You know what I was thinking would be good with this car? Maybe you're an older guy. You got a place, on Long Island, it's beach town. You just want something to rip around. It's got good. It's the thing about this car is, though it's not going to be like some crazy fast or super well like 911 rear engine handling. It's not that. That's not what you're getting in this package. It's 4-wheel drive. It's cab. It's not really going to be like that crazy 911 air cooled experience that you might expect. But this thing would be great to tool around in a beach town, or have it as a vacation car, or just something you want to rip around in. It does still, like I said, it has a lot of presence. You pull up in this thing and you're definitely, you're pulling up in a classic Porsche to the public eye. Probably sounds great. You throw the top down. These things obviously are getting pretty damn expensive. So when you consider 40 grand, I mean, it is going to need some work, but as Jeff said, it's made it this far. And I kind of think of these the same way as I think of like the older BMWs. If you keep up with them, man, the way they made these cars back then, the Germans, the Mercedes, the Porsche, the BMWs, they if you keep up with them, they will keep running. You can get 250,000 miles out of them. They'll keep going. They're very, very well made. But it's also last comment. I think maybe the reason this doesn't get a ton of love, these cabs don't get a ton of love, is because these are coveted now because it's like the ultimate enthusiast vehicle. And being a 4-wheel drive cab, I don't think this is an enthusiast spec.
Right.
So I think that's kind of where a lot of that comes from. But again, realistically, what would I do if I wanted an open air Porsche experience? for 40 grand, I would not get this fucking clunker. I'd get a freaking Boxster, I'd get a Boxster GTS, and Jeff's gonna kick my ass with 7-speed PDK and all that stuff. No. I would get a stick and a Boxster, of course. But honestly, that's kind of where my head's at. But those are
Yes.
the comparisons I make. I'm taking it at face value, but I get why you buy it.
Yeah, you made that good point, Lars, where it's like it's that kind of beach community vehicle.
Yeah, you have a place in the Hamptons that's been in your family forever, so you're still a humble guy. You don't have millions or multiple millions, but you want a nice little impressive sports car to tool around it. And you pull up to the restaurant thing with your wife, whatever. This thing's still sick. It's cool. Look at it. The paint looks good. Who cares if it's been fucking repainted? No one's like looking at it like, yeah, you can see some overspray.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the close-up photos, it's a good kind of 10 feet away car.
Yeah.
When you look at the close-ups, there are some really kind of some rough spots, but this is a good 10 foot away car.
Grover, you're turning into one of those like bat snipers who like just walks into an auction you don't intend to buy anything on. And you're just like, oh, I think the turn signal has a hairline fracture in it. I don't think this is a good car. But
I'm okay with 10-footers, honestly. Because
I'm not saying it. I mean, I drive a 10-foot vehicle currently, so I'm not knocking. I'm just being honest.
Dude, no, but also if you have a vehicle that literally does not have a single rock chip or a single ding,
right?
You can't drive it. Like, yeah, that's gonna happen in the first month if you get the bumper resprayed anyways, those little dings.
If you're honestly really driving a car. I had the bumpers repainted on that S6 Avant I have, and I just looked at it the other day, and like someone definitely, I don't know how they did it. It's not like from a car. I think it's like, I don't know, shopping cart, just careless, like pants leg or something. But like the front bumper has this, has a very faint surface level scratch, but it's just deep enough it won't come out with buffing. I'm just like, that car never gets driven.
No, it's going to happen. So you might as well have a couple.
So like you might as well just, I'm grateful the rest of the car doesn't look that good, but to your point, Lars, like, yeah, if you want to actually drive the thing, it's just shit's gonna happen all the time. So that's like, to me, I look at this car and I'd lower it, put it on the 5-spoke cup style.
Ooh, yeah.
Alloys, and
yeah, you're right.
Maybe an exhaust, and I wouldn't do another. I wouldn't do another damn thing to it. And even better if you live somewhere where you can you're not even driving fast, right? You're just driving around, and that's where I've actually been having thoughts of like, man, like a 993 964 Cabriolet, they're so cheap relative to the hard tops.
Yeah.
And if you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to lower it and just drive around in a convertible. Like, I don't like convertibles personally, but for something like this, I'd make an exception because it's got the air-cooled sound. It's got the perfect looks for, it's classic 911. Yeah. And, if I wanted it, and it's like, I kind of get mad. I'm like, I'm so sick of the fact that the prices have just run away on these cars.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, screw it. I want a piece of that. So I would actually consider something like this, but I think this is a good price for relative to the enjoyment you're going to get out of it, and you just go into it eyes wide open, knowing you're not buying like kind of the performance spec of a 911. So for 40 grand, there's a lot of other way more boring choices out there.
True.
All right, let's jump on to our final one. So this is a 13,000 mile Testarossa. Went for 193,000, which I think is a very it's a fair price, but it's also it's a very big price. Blue Serra and Metallizzato, which is a nice way of saying navy, or I guess it's a little lighter than navy, but kind of striking. Just don't see them in this color that often. I'm guessing 5 to 7% of the price paid here was for the color. Look at that interior. What is this called again? This is actually beautiful cream of Connolly leather. This is a stunning color combo. And for so many of these that come in red or black, I'm just like, I don't often consider the Testarossa a pretty car. I think they are iconic 80s cars, and that's kind of always where I give them credit for. Like this is just 80s excess, just but almost in a more uh digestible wrapper than like the Countach is. So like it's like it's to has a little bit of to excess, but it's not excessive, if that makes any sense. And so this one with this color scheme, I was just over the moon for this thing. I was like, holy God, this is a pretty car. Um, so I'm a sucker for rare colors. Like I would be the guy who would pay more for a car if it was a color you don't often see. Always like the Testarossa, just for the whole Miami Vice connection and just 80s 80s supercar. And this one just low mileage, so obviously that's always going to demand a premium. But I feel like this is, even at the price paid, this is a very smart buy because it's always going to command strong money because of the color scheme, the low miles, and just being an icon of the era. So I don't know if there's a quick highlight before I turn it over to you guys, but certainly the condition looked excellent. Looks like we have some maintenance records here, which hopefully point to an engine out service at some point in its history. But all that aside, let's see. I'll see. I can read the description too and see what it says. But all that aside, this is just a great, beautiful specimen, great colors, and certainly probably I doubt they overpaid compared to what this will sell for. Again in the future. What do you guys think?
I'm actually going to agree with you completely, Jeff, on this one. So
wow.
we're not going for 3 for 3 tonight. This was probably my favorite of the bunch of this group. I mean, this is a beautiful car. As it's as you talked about 80s excess, but also a bit understated, compared to something like the Countach and other kind of wacky cars of that era. You mentioned the Miami Vice connection, which kind of gets anyone over about 40 or over, kind of their heart racing a little bit, but great color. I mean, this is a heck of a car. This is a heck of a car, and what a beautiful color, because we see these so often in white and red, and seeing it in this really beautiful blue color is really impressive. From the price standpoint, I mean, it's a tad high, compared to what else has been sold out there on Bring a Trailer. You see a lot in the 150s but for the color, the quality, and the low mileage, I mean, this is a pretty good, straightforward deal that the buyer and seller should both be really happy with.
Yeah. I think Jeff does this on purpose. He'll pick two cars. Usually it's a majority of them. He'll pick two cars he knows we're all going to disagree on because he wants to add drama and flair, which I can appreciate. And then he chooses one absolutely bang on, nailed it legend, which this one is. This, Jeff, you fucking said it, man. This is the type of car where this spec, you're not buying a Testarossa. You're buying the spec. I mean, they're so lightly colored, those seats, all the leather on the dash. I mean, the interior is just so 80s. You really can't get enough of it. That is the Miami Vice. I have seen one of these. There's a white on white. I think the white on white, like there's a white on white 964s too. That's just so 80s. But this with the blue and the white leather interior, I think this is a great spec. I mean, what is this? Is this it's an 89, so 11, 23. It's a 34-year-old car, right? It's got 13K on it. This is a low mileage unit. This is a very low mileage unit. It's been taken care of. I don't know what the production run of these was, but if it's a late model, even better. All said and done, being frank, if you're looking for a Testarossa, this is probably one of the better packages you can have. And I'm going to level out with you. I don't necessarily love the Testarossas that much. I've never been a huge fan in terms of like classic Ferraris. But this compared to a red one with black leather or tan leather, it's just a different story. Actually, okay, so it doesn't have white leather on the dash. I was wrong about that. But yeah, point still stands. Great spec. Very low mileage unit. Looks very well taken care of. I think the price is, you're pretty safe here. Unless you plan on driving it, but this is a collector's one, I think. I kind of hate
Yeah,
the carpet though. Now that I'm looking at it, that kind of fun. Like, look at that door. What's up with the door? You see the door? Go back.
yeah. I was noticing that same exact thing just now.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
Oh yeah,
look at
that
Why would
that
why would they
weird
do
carpet
that?
insert.
That is strange.
That just ruins it. It's like I'm saying all this great stuff about the interior.
Now you hate it. Now
Yeah, and
you're
then
just.
it's brown, tan, and white on the door. Are you shitting me?
It looks
Anyway,
like
let's just pretend it's all white, guys.
no. It looks like someone went to like local shop class and had them,
Just
make some new.
insert some carpet to protect it or something.
Yeah,
Okay, but
like
I'm
they're
gonna
just
look.
like.
You guys
I-
debrief. I'm gonna look up a different Testarossa and see if I can find.
Yeah, it's actually a really great
That's-
point.
I'm looking at the interior now, dude. It actually doesn't look good. The more you look, the more you see, type of thing. Carpets are brown.
Well,
But-
the seats look.
Well,
great. The
they
seats-
all have that. I'm just looking at another one, and there is that kind of weird carpet on the inside of another one.
Damn, guys, I will say, type in Testarossa to Ring a Trailer. They're all red. All of them.
Yeah, I know. I know. It was yeah, everything is red. There's maybe a yellow one somewhere, but other than that, it's all red except for when you
That
get
is
to
a- wow, that is a
except when
tough
you get to the 512 TRs when they start to kind of get some different colors. But I think also having this colors just makes it really unique and really sells this car.
That is, you know what though? I didn't realize that's a really high price for one of those. I didn't realize that it was so up there. These are like $120,000 to $150,000 cars, even with low miles. So that one
It's
actually.
kind of amazing how.
Go ahead.
How cheap some of them still. It's kind of amazing how cheap some of them still sell for relative to what they are.
I think
yeah,
I think you
know,
guys kind of said too that there is kind of a polarization factor where you guys both said you aren't completely crazy about the Testarossa. So I mean that means it could be the polarization factor. It's like
I don't know.
you respect it, but you don't love it.
I'm almost taking back my comments because this thing seems kind of like not a great deal now.
It's
Well,
high. Yeah,
so
it's
here's
like, I
the
mean,
thing.
it's high.
You're banking on the color and the low mileage.
Well, the interior's jacked up.
It's also probably
jacked up.
What happened to the interior, dude?
It might have been
What do you
just
mean?
it might have been just like the way it was purchased was like a kind of a custom
White, brown, and black.
the spec,
I'm
you
gonna
know.
go find that guy, the original owner, and slap him silly.
Well, it is interesting.
What's a 512 TR? It's like the Evo version of this.
It was like the redesign.
Yeah, it's just it's a refresh.
Like the next
aesthetically.
generation. Wow, those are beautiful. I'm looking at those now. Those are beautiful, huh?
Yeah, the 512 TR is a very nice car.
And we talked about this a while, I think a few episodes ago. This was kind of when Ferrari was kind of old school Ferrari evolving into kind of corporate Ferrari. So I mean, this is kind of at the tail end of like Ferrari kind of being its own independent, sort of thing. So I think that has something to do with it too, where it's it's really unique and niche.
Yeah, that's also true.
So let's run through them. I'm gonna start with you, John. Your top buy of the night. Which car are you picking?
I'm going with the Ferrari. I think the color, the low mileage. I'm gonna go with the Ferrari.
Lars.
Same here, but actually I was too harsh on the Porsche because for 40 grand that'd be fun.
All right. I'm picking the Lambo.
Dude, you're fucked. You're kidding me.
No.
No, I think you gotta remember, Lars. Jeff and I are of an age where like everyone had a Lambo on their like a poster on their wall, or or saw it on TV in some really cool setting. So I think it is a little nostalgia.
It's by all accounts a cheap Countach, which does not ever happen. So like it's not going to happen again. You're not going to get into one of these for under 500,000. So I think it was a smart buy, especially if you do some reconditioning.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yep.
Key features, aftermarket switches on dashboard. It's like, okay, all right.
So, but here's the thing: if it runs well, if it does not need a total mechanical overhaul, if it's been maintained mechanic, which I feel like people are basically vouching for because they know the car in the community, you can do the cosmetics, you can get rid of the exhaust, you can present this car far better than it's shown here. And I think you're in a good spot financially with it. So I think it's
I mean, someone bought it, right? So people see the value in it.
Yeah, so it's like to me, it's just checking two boxes. A, you can go out and just drive this thing every.
Also, it does come
you
with the
can drive
stock
it.
exhaust.
It does, or you can put this back to stock. You can fix the ratty cosmetics, and you could present this car. I mean, even the photos are awful. So like, you could do some very superficial things.
Yeah, it's like
to
a
push
Wendy's
this car
parking lot.
closer to 600,000. It's a Wendy's park. Yeah. I mean, just whoever owned this is just like, oh yeah, this is just my
This
is my, I mean, Jesus Christ. Even look at this. This is horrible.
Yo, can you click on that back? Go up and click on that picture of the
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, dude, the car's already been touched by enough people, it looks like. Go to that picture of the rear again. Yes, yeah, top right. You see that? Oh my dude, like that is just such a crazy looking car.
It's
you gotta give it
bonkers.
It's like, I mean, if you aren't into cars and it's like you don't know shit, but you saw that pull up next to you, it's like half the size of your sedan, you'd know, okay, that's something crazy. I mean, it's just in terms of unique, like wow factor and conversation piece. The thing is, click on the interior. Those seats, bro, like that shit, and the shifter right there. I wish I was freaking 5'10" and just rip this thing, because that is cool.
Of course, what's hilarious is that the mom in the new Odyssey minivan will absolutely smoke you.
Oh, you get absolutely wrapped up in her front wheel drive V6.
Yeah.
10
so
speed.
I will say I've heard these things are miserable to drive, like just the dynamic. So I don't really have like any burning desire to own one, like in terms of like the driving experience. I just think
that's why this is a horrible deal.
Yeah.
Because it's not in good condition and it's not good to drive. And it's like, so what the fuck are you buying it for?
You're buying it because you can probably do some modest improvements and sell to some other sucker for 650,000 inside of a year.
Things are rough.
Dude, things rough, bro. 70 grand. That's fucking nothing when you're talking about.
Listen,
you're gonna spend 70 grand trying to make it right, at least.
Go to the engine bay,
Jeff. I know you've been working hard. You have a lot going on, but I think you've gone delusional.
It's got a Sharpie marker note here that shows you where the front of the car is. I mean, it's really
whatever. It's like Jeff, like every footage showing makes me think it's more of a roach coach.
Yeah, like what's that expansion tank? Did they just slap that on there? No, I mean, I guess
where
fine, actually.
But
no way that's stock.
That's the nitrous tank.
There's no way that's stock. I don't know, man. I'm being harsh, but
no.
Well, listen,
dude, and it's the three. If it's like, okay, well, this one has the big engine, the desirable engine, but it doesn't even have that. It has the 3.9.
Listen,
it's like the Italian version of like a late gen of a late term C3 Corvette. That's what this is.
How much is a Diablo? I'm just trying to think of how
I'd take a Diablo over this any day and twice on Sunday.
Dude, $500,000, Jeff. Come on, please. Before we end this episode, you have to admit $500,000. You have some stupid options. You have some crazy options.
I'm gonna die on this hill. Sorry, and I have to go because.
Oh my god! Mint 99 Diablo VT Roadster, low mileage, 482.
I have a child who's apparently choking on their snot, so I'm gonna go. This has been the CommonGear.com podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check out the CommonGear.com where you can easily track, store, and monitor your vehicle maintenance, especially if it's a collector vintage car like this one, which would have been served by a digital portfolio that shows all the hard work the owner has put into maintaining this iconic specimen of a supercar. I'm Jeff, joined by John and Lars. Thank you for watching. We'll be back here next week with another round of iconic and interesting vehicles from the digital auction circuit. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining, guys. I'll see you next week.